What feels illegal to know? When I was a kid, my dad taught me how to pick a lock. I became very interested in different kinds of locks and purchased a lockpick set. I practiced for years and became pretty good at certain types of locks. So over the years, every now and then, if a neighbor locks themselves out of the house or a friend loses the key to a padlock or a lockbox, I've been able to help. But the reactions I tend to get from people, even while I'm helping them with their lock, is mainly one of mistrust. I'm not a cat burglar, I just like locks. In Canada, you can record any conversation with someone without their knowledge, unless it is in furtherance of an offense. I had to do this with an auto restoration shop in order to do a Visa chargeback when they did nothing to my car but steal parts for almost a year. Curtis Customs in Nova Scotia, I don't mind mentioning them because there are already news stories about their scams. I worked for a giant tech company and apparently share the same name as a very high up hardware engineer. Got put on ML threads I definitely didn't belong on. On a similar funny note, one of my friends with a common name at the same company got a promotion. Our manager searched his name in the system, clicked the first she saw, and promoted him. Well, it was the wrong guy, and the guy she clicked on was also very high up, and in return it made him lose a bunch of his access, pay, benefits, etc. I have a very similar name to a guy from Ohio, and I've been getting his work emails, PayPal payments, and a bunch of other stuff when people or he forgets to add the one letter that's different in our name. Legit. Got wedding photos. Had some lady keep sending me the same damn form for him to sign until I forwarded it to him and copied them both in an email telling her very politely that she had the wrong guy. Even had his friend send me a good chunk of change because our PayPal accounts are set up with super similar emails. Thought it was a scam and cussed the friend out until the guy with the name emailed me from his email and explained. We fixed that situation and they sent me a hat from the motorcycle race they were going to. Very nice guy. His wife is too. And we send each other Christmas cards through email, lol. When you have a debt with a collection agency, you can pay the debt and then call back a few weeks later and say, I was told when I called and paid that you'd remove this from my credit score. And then you ask for documentation saying they are gonna do it. Apparently collection agencies don't keep super good records on stuff like that. They just want your money. It worked for me, and I hope it can work for you if you need it in the future. And to everyone saying hell no, don't pay them, it comes off after 7 years. I completely get that. I had quite a few things in collections, and they absolutely destroyed my credit over them. I was in the middle of the 7 years and needed to get my credit score fixed ASAP. Doing this took my credit score from mid 500s to mid 700s. Sure, there are plenty of people on here who say it never hit their credit, and that's great for you. There are also many people suggesting talking to an attorney. That's another route you can take. This is what worked for me, and everyone else is likely in a different situation. You must do what you feel is right. Thank you to everyone commenting other information, because it's all helpful. Credit scores are dumb, and I wish they didn't exist. You can ask scientists for their research paper that you usually have to pay money to view in a journal. They are allowed to just email it to you, no questions asked, and they like to do it. When you're on a jury, you can vote for someone as innocent, even if you think they did it. Most common reasoning for this would be if you just think that they shouldn't be punished for whatever they did. I can't remember the term for it, something like third option. It is legal to grow opium poppies in the United States, but only if you don't know they can be used to make illegal substances. Totally another route of what everyone else is posting, but the lion at the Animal Kingdom safari ride isn't chained. Disney World Park. He is fed a huge piece of meat every morning and sits on a rock that is changed to the perfect temperature for him every day, so he has no reason to attack anyone on the safari ride. I had a stats prof who used to work for the US government. I'm not sure exactly what his job was, but it definitely involved evaluating the status and readiness of nukes, both ours and the USSR's. He was probably at least 70 and had been retired from that job for a while. One day in class he just started talking about the percentage of nukes that fail, ours and theirs, and why they fail, and all kinds of other, seemingly sensitive, information. I don't think he would have told us anything classified, but his personality was boisterous and irreverent enough that I'm not sure I literally expected a team of spooks to bust down the door at any minute and drag us all off for interviews in windowless rooms. I had a similar experience. My history prof, the class was War, Peace and Strategic Defense, was a former spook at 3-letter agencies. He didn't detail all that he did, but definitely slipped and said NSA once. He taught us all about the various "secret nuclear shield technologies the US government was working on." My favorite was the nuclear pumped pop-up X-ray laser, taught as in you must be able to sketch out and explain at least one SDI technology on the exam, not just some random aside during a lecture. The benefit of Google hindsight tells me the Gov shut that project down in 1992, which is about 2 years before he was teaching us this. So, probably not classified anymore, but it was certainly all new to us. We also had to be able to diagram and explain one of the 2 bombs dropped on Japan, either a uranium gun barrel assembly or a plutonium implosion assembly. He was a great teacher and the sizable lecture class hung on his every word. We felt like we were members of a secret club. Read a personal finance book that recommended calling your providers once a year. Credit card companies, TV/internet providers, cell phone company, etc., and demand a lower rate or price. I've been following that advice for 2 years and have not been denied once. Last week I saw a commercial for my internet provider offering a super low introductory rate, so I called to demand that I get that rate. They said no problem, and now I save an extra $700 a year because of a 5-minute call. I'm a very passive introvert, so it's not the most easy or comfortable thing, but the money I save is worth it. They may say no initially, but if you ask a few times or ask to speak to their supervisor, they very usually give in. Well, I'm in med school, and funny enough, learning how to not kill a person involves learning about a ton of ways to end a person. I'll provide some examples in hope it's purely for academical purposes and innocent curiosity. There are a lot of very interesting ways to kill a person beside the obvious and boring gunshot. The most important one for a doctor being drug overdose, cause there are a lot of illegal substances that can totally kill you. In fact, basically anything could kill you if you assume too much of it. Hell, you could die of water overdose if you drink too much water fast enough for your kidneys to not be able to filter it out. Your blood will become too diluted to function, and your blood pressure will skyrocket. To put up for this, your body will start storing excess water in places it shouldn't be. For example, the brain. And the brain really doesn't like being compressed. You'll either die for cardiac failure due to excessive blood pressure, tissue death for lack of oxygen, or brain death for excessive intracranial pressure. Other fairly common substances and illegal substances that can kill you are potassium, but bananas are healthy. Yeah, I know, but pure potassium is actually one of the deadliest substances you can find in a hospital, and it takes a tiny amount to kill a person. Paracetamol. It takes only about 12 to 15 grams of paracetamol to kill an average of 50% of the subjects, and where I live 1 gram pills are incredibly common. So it's just 12 pills, about 10 over 20 cc in a vein, and you're beyond saving. And really a ton of other stuff. Correction. Death from water overdose actually occurs from osmotic pressure imbalance, which causes other important substances in your body to migrate out of your cells and into your blood because of the different concentration gradient, and because substances tend to diffuse toward the areas with the lower concentrations. Another way I personally find so absurd it's almost funny is breaking the cribriform plate. Have you ever wondered how does the sense of smell work? You have thousands of tiny receptors on the very upper part of your nasal cavity, but those aren't connected to a nerve like it is for taste buds or pain receptors. Those are connected directly to your brain through a tiny bone strip that divides the base of your brain from the top of your nasal cavity, which is about as thick as a few paper sheets and full of tiny holes for the brain cells there to connect to the smell receptors. You basically have a bunch of brain cells dangling in your nose, and that bone is insanely easy to break. You just have to push long enough, stick upright in someone's nose. Also, in front of that bone there is another vertical bone segment that divides the left and right part of the nose cavity. If you punch someone's nose hard enough for that bone to be pushed backwards, it can actually perforate the skull. The brain damage coming from it may not be huge, but the nose is very dirty and the immune system cannot reach the brain. which has other defenses against pathogens. If you break through the skull like that, you will push a ton of bacteria inside the brain and the subject will very likely die from bacterial meningitis and infection after a few days. This is both how ancient Egyptians took the brains out of pharaohs' bodies and the reason why many body combat sports have bandnos and face punches. Also, contrary to popular belief, if you hang someone they don't actually die from asphyxiation. Instead their neck usually breaks, and there are 2 pretty big arteries going right through 6 out the 7 cervical vertebrae. Those arteries are usually snapped along with the bone structure, and the person dies because their brain doesn't get enough blood anymore, which usually happens before the subject can bleed out internally. I hope I satisfied a bit of your curiosity. Please do not kill anyone. Also, I'm just a first year student, so if older med student or doctors want to point out mistakes or add something, please go ahead.